Hi, well, this is my last wee tutorial on using Snapseed. I am hopefully giving you an overview of it and you can see what you can do with it. There's a lot more depth to using Snapseed, and maybe at another time I'll start going into those as well. But enjoy this last one anyway, and thanks very much indeed for any of you who have actually watched it. So, thanks, bye. Well, here we are again with my basically last series of hints and tips on using Snapseed, giving you a basic understanding of how it all works. The one I'm going to work on today is the fifth row down, which has got noir, portrait, head pose, lens blur, vignette. Also a bit of double exposure text and frames at the bottom. So we'll be covering all those today, and hopefully this bit of information. So anyway, we'll start off with noir and see what happens with that. Now there's black and white and there's noir. Now black and white does what it says in the tin, gives you a black and white image. Noir does that as well, but it gives you more like a cinematic look to it. So it just gives a different effect, and it's quite interesting. So we'll click on noir, and what we've got now is a whole series. If the wee book thing down there, if I'm clicking on that, that brings those up, and you've got all these different looks all the way through. Some look good, some don't look so good, and I think they all take a bit of working at to get it the way you want. And whether you want black and white, more black and white and everything else, that's quite good for basically black and white. But what I like about this one here is there's one down here, this one, which has got a nice bit of tone in it, makes it look a wee bit different. And what you can do with that is, if I use the adjusters on the left hand side, opens up your brightness, a wash, which is really sort of giving you a sort of cinematic feel to it, grain, and filter strength. And filter strength's at 100, so I'm going to take that right the way to none. Now we've got black and white, everything basically back to 0, and grain back to 0. So that's really the base where you're starting from. So if we stay that again, so now the brightness is not bad actually. I wouldn't, I'm quite happy with that in its way. I'll bring it down a wee bit more. The wash, now what that's doing, that seems to increase your contrast there, but your shadows, and you see the way the effect it's giving. And I quite like it about there because it's not too bright on the highlights, and there's a wee bit more of detail in the shadow. So round about that there, I think would be about right. Grain, now grain, hang on. If I come in here and we've got grain, so what I'm going to do, you see how it's very plain in the background there, but if I go in there, we've suddenly got lots and lots of grain. Now, that can be fine on a picture like this here, but whenever you get to, say, a smooth sky or something like that, it's probably one thing you really don't want. But on this character, I don't mind a wee bit of grain. Sometimes it can even add a bit of extra sharpness to it, the grain. I'm not saying you can get away with a blurry photograph, you can't, but it can just get that wee bit extra texture and everything else to it. So it's quite good. I'm leaving the grain in there. Filter strength. Right, let's come down. Now, this is the bit that's giving me, you can see now the colour is coming into that. We've got a nice sort of warmish tone to it. I quite like that, and actually I quite like it quite strong too, so I'm going to leave it at that, and that works quite well. So you can see now we've started off with that, so going to click on that and going to adjust some other things in a wee moment. The one thing about this is you can jump backwards and forwards whenever you're in Snapseed. I mean, you can go up to tune image here, and if I want to get those shadows up a wee bit, you can come down the shadows here. That lifts them a bit, but I quite like use ambience here, and that seems to work reasonably well. Brightness, bring it down a wee tiny bit. So we've done that. So back into again at the bottom. Now I've got noir, portrait. Right, now this is going to give us another range of things here down here. So what we're going to do with this here is you've got different things. Now suddenly see, that's the standard one. Now we go to face spotlight. Suddenly look at the shadows there. I go up more, look. Now just watch you don't burn out the highlights or anything like that, but it doesn't have to make it a sort of difference onto it. And you've got skin tones as well, so you can, different skin tones, that'll give you a different look of how people are. So if you want to get that fair or medium, and then we'll leave it at that. But now we're going to go into face spotlight, coming up there. Skin smoothing, I don't want his skin to be smooth. See what happens when I do that? Blurs it. That'll be fine, certain circumstances, you know. But it doesn't. It's quite subtle. But on him, I want all those textures. I want that skin like that, and eye clarity. Now this is the fun bit here. So if I am on eye clarity, and if I start moving across, look the way his eyes pop. Now the colour's gone. You can see they're almost blue in there now. Take that down, but we can play around with that later on. See, like that. His eyes don't look right in that one there. Bring that down a wee bit, but you can bring the eye up a little bit without going too far onto that. If that was in pure black and white, I suspect that you can go up quite a bit, but you can see yourself the way it lifts the eyes. So just by using a little bit, it'll lift the eyes that little bit extra. So you just have to be careful with these things. It's probably because I'm using the setup as noir that it's creating a problem with the way the eyes coloured there. But if you're using black and white and everything else, but it's a great way to get the eyes to pop. So we'll say okay with that one. Now the next thing here is what we want to do is head pose. Now head pose here, you see I can move the fingers up, down, left, right. It finds a face for you. Sometimes they don't always find a face, but it did. So what I can now do is move my finger up and down, and where it goes up, down, cross, and across. So if the head angle wasn't quite right, you can slight adjustment. You can bring it round a bit again. And again, you've got different things here. You've got pupil size, so let's go in here and is that right? Like that. You can see the way the pupil is being pushed up a wee bit there. You've got smile. Watch your smile. Way a wee bit extreme maybe, but you got a child's face not smiling to it, put it on subtle, then that can work okay. And your focal length again, this one here is it can change the shape of the face, giving you the effect that if you had a proper long focal lens when doing a portrait. Most phones have wide angle lenses, and if you get in too close they can distort the face. So now you may be able to play around with that one a little bit too to help it. So say that's okay, come out of that. Next one we go into then is lens blur. And so what we're going to do with lens blur, you can see here I've got this circles, and depending the way you squeeze them up and down, so you can get different shapes onto that. So I'm really concentrating on his face. Now the inner circle's a bit will be sharp. I touch on the blue spot, I can move it around, and there's a transition between the inner circle and the outer circle. And if you see here, transition there, I can change that transition to very, very little or bring it up a lot wider. So I'm going to bring it down to about there. And then I've also got the blur strength. Now the background, look at that, way, way blurred. That's okay, I don't mind it that way at the moment, but also look, his clothes, and his clothes wouldn't be blurred like that. So but there's a way around that. And you've got a vignette on this one here, but I'm going to take the vignette off at the moment and I'll come back to doing something later on. Right, so we'll say that's okay. Now what I want to do now is go into the history. Top we reverse arrow, a few edits, and lens blur, and now we've got brush. You see at the bottom there it's saying lens blur, different things I'm clicking on, blur, 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 and this is the brush I'm going to use. So at the moment I want to take blur out of some things. Now I want to see where all the blur is. I can see that, and the eye, now that's showing me my mask. So if I go in here and take all that off, then you'll see exactly what I'm trying to do here. So initially I'm going in here, sorry, it's the wrong way, blur off. So I'm taking that off. Now I can bring this up so as to get in reasonably close into it. It doesn't matter if you're a wee bit inaccurate, not accurate with it, but come back down. You'll see what happens anyway in a moment or two. That all the way down, and then right, like, so we're getting rid of all this. Right, so that's all the blur around him. We should be able to put blur back in. I've got lens blur at the bottom at naught, so put that back up to 100. Come in here. That's painting that again in round there. And right, so that's done that. So now what I want to do is take off the mask, and that's showing you where all that blur is. And now he's standing out from the background, which is really quite good. So you can adjust it. The initial one, circle gives you the idea of it, and then you can adjust it where you want your blur or not, you know. So I find that quite useful, that one there, for doing that. So we're clicking that OK. And so far we've come from there, noir, tune image. We've got portrait, we've got head pose, and now we've had lens blur. So that's not bad going. So back out of that one there, and back into tools again. Now we have the vignette, which we can use onto that, and you've got to see the way different. You have light, which I wouldn't recommend on a portrait like this here, darks. So you go into there, bring that down a little bit. You got outer brightness and you've inner brightness if you want to brighten it up a wee bit inside there, but reasonably happy the way that is. Just bringing down the tone on the outer side a wee bit, and that's looking pretty good. So we've got so far. Now going again, I'm not going to do double exposure yet, but we'll go to text. If we go to text, and whenever again the wee booklet thing there at the bottom, that give you a whole range of different things you can have here, and you can change these. So let's say we start with this one, change this, the text, take that off, and Marrakesh. Okay, so we've got that, and now we can bring that down in size as well. So we're down to there, and that's okay. And there it is in there. So we've got that. That's pretty good. You go into tools again. So if I go back into view edits, I want to still edit that. If I'm in here again, I can change this to a lot of different things that I want to. Lines. You can put things like this into it. Different styles. It's actually quite a lot of it, and you can even do. There he is, talking. But what I'm going to do is go back again to more or less where it was. Any of these, there we are, that'll do. Bring it down a wee bit more. You can also now go into the colour, the palette on the left, and you have a whole range of colours here. So you can go from purples, blues, reds, yellow. Yellow's quite good. And so that is looking quite good at the moment. And if you can bring that down if it's a bit too bright, like that. So that's looking quite good. Click on that one. Now what I want to do is go back, tools again, and on the last one here's frames. I want to show you about that. Now frames are actually quite good. There's a whole range of different style of frames here. And they all work very well, but my only problem is about it. I can swipe my finger left and right and you'll get frame width. And if I go that way, what's happening is it's cropping in on my picture, which I don't want it to do. Now, if you have a lot of space around your picture, there's enough space around this here probably to do it. So you can just leave yourself like that. But that's without, so you can play around with it a wee bit, but there are other programs that will do it without cropping in on your actual picture. But there's a whole some nice frames here that I quite like, black ones. You know, a range of them there, which I think look very good. If they change that, I'd be very happy, so that it doesn't crop in on the picture. But there is more or less what we've got to, and that's brought that picture up quite a different. I would click onto that, and if I go back into the edits again, you'll see we started with that. Noir, tune, right the way through, different things, each one adding that wee bit extra, and there you are. That was the whole thing done. So it now turned that nice wee picture of the guy into something quite different. Right, out of that, I'm going to show you very quickly and one more picture here, favorites, and this one. We're going to start off with this one. Now this one here, we're going to go into double exposure. Do that. Now in double exposure, down at the very bottom on the left, you see a wee plus sign on a picture. So if I click on that, that lets me go into my files here and find something that I want. So what I'm really looking for is textures here at the moment. So I have a range of textures set in here, and I'm going to pick one of these here. Let's pick that one. Now that has put that right onto there. It's not bad looking. I don't like the bits at the side, but so by using my 2 fingers again, I can bring those up, and that gives me a nice, quite a good texture. Go to the bottom, the right hand teardrop type thing. That's giving me my how much texture I want to be there, and the other one is giving you your same way Photoshop does, giving you different looks, what's going to work. I quite like the overlay one, and we'll stay with that, and we'll stay at about that texture there. So that's got that one. And so if I click on that and then decide I want another bit of texture into here, so click on that again, and this time I'm going to go into graffiti, and in graffiti here I'll take this one and I'm going to enlarge it up so it's just really just that there, some love, and I'll go in, into this one here, see if there's any of these work any better and how they'll look. You can try some of this and then go in here and then bring way down like that, or your way up like that. So you can do that, or go into another one, overlay again, and up and down into there. So that's now giving you quite another thing. I would reduce that down, so it's just about seen and no more. So that gives you an idea of what you can do with more or less everything now in the tools. It's only the basics that I've shown. There's a lot more things you can do, and maybe I'll try doing a few other bit more complicated ones, but I hope that's all okay for you. Anyway, thanks very much indeed for watching. Bye.